Welcome to this week's Thursday Night Live edition of You've Been Through Too Much to Be Average. And this one is going to be a great one. Well, really, all of them are awesome, but I'm really excited about this. I have lists of things that I want to do on Thursday Night Lives or each week on You've Been Through Too Much to Be Average. But I hadn't decided on anything. And I was praying and like, what should I do? Hey, Calvin. I was praying and like, what should I do? And it came to me probably like a day later. I'm going to talk about sexual transmutation. Hi DeAndre, you've been through too much to be average, and average people don't talk about this, but it actually is going to change your life. When I heard about it, it made a lot of sense. Hi Keandre, atta girl for being on here. And so sexual transmutation is something very, very, very profound that will change your life, and it's not hard to get. So I want to share it with you all because the average person is not thinking about this, and you want to be better than the average. You want to be allergic to the average. Hey Alvita. So we're talking about sexual transmutation tonight. Transmutation. And just so you know, it's on the title. So transmutation, pretty much taking something from one form of energy and transferring it to another. That's what transmutation is. So when you eat food and that food then gives you energy, your body has transmuted it, has changed it or transferred it. And so sexual transmutation is that, all right, taking your sex energy, your desire for sex, and using it for something more positive. Yes, the name of this particular edition of You've Been Through Too Much to Be Average is Sex Can Take You to the Top. It's not what you're thinking, guys. This is not explicit at all. It's going to change your life. So the younger people on here, this is really, really, really for you. So I'm not going to tell you to, get off of here or anything. I'm not going to say anything explicit, but it's awesome when I learned this. I refer to this book right here a lot. It's called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And he did a chapter in here on sex transmutation. Hey, Tony. And so sex transmutation, when I went into my pastor's office, he called me. He told me he recognized I have the gift of teaching, or the ministry gift of teaching. So I don't say I'm a preacher, I'm a teacher, but I teach in ministry. And so he called me in and he was telling me about the different avenues through the Assemblies of God, which is the organization that our church is a part of, the greater governance body. And he said, listen, he was talking to me about some things, and he said, listen, you're going to sit in here, the door is going to be open. My wife's office is right there. And she said, that's how the settings are. He said, because I'll tell you something, in ministry, and he was later telling me that the Assemblies of God, they check your credit and that kind of stuff before you can get ordained and that kind of thing, right? So he said, in reference to both of those statements, he said that most men, but I want to say that as in mankind, most people make major life errors or get into trouble because of either sex or money. Okay, and sometimes it's both. Now when he said that, it was actually reinforcement because I had read it somewhere before. I study a lot on success and achievement principles. I study a lot in general. Okay, and so I had read before that most major mistakes that men make in their life is because of sex or money, or sometimes both, and sometimes they're intertwined. It's men doing crazy things for money or illegal things for money to impress women. Okay, and I've seen that to happen from the men that I know. All right, from afar, celebrities as well as men that I know and I'm close to. And so if you think about the movie, if you've ever seen the movie American Gangster, which is based on the life story of Frank Lucas, or the life of Frank Lucas, and how he trafficked these millions of dollars of drugs from Vietnam to here, heroin, using the corpses of men who died in the Vietnam War. And so in that movie, I knew, and I love this kind of insight that I have. I was watching the movie, and his love interest in the movie bought him this chinchilla coat and hat. And he didn't like it. He wasn't into flashy. As a matter of fact, he was very conservative. The guy who taught him taught him about being conservative so that you don't draw attention to yourself. And I knew when she bought him that coat and hat, and he was kind of hesitant about how he received it. And she was like, you don't like it? He was like, yeah, I like it. But you could tell that he didn't like it because it was too flashy for him. And it also showed that she didn't know him. I knew then that was going to be a turning point or a major part of the plot in the movie. And later on, the guy who was targeting all these big drug dealers, when they were in the room planning, how they were going to take him down and stuff, he put a picture of him on the board. And he said, because he took a picture of Denzel Washington, who played Frank Lucas, at the fight, at the professional boxing fight, and he said, look at this guy in this big hat and this big coat. As a matter of fact, the guy behind him was mad, like I can't even see, right? And Denzel Washington, he was playing Frank Lucas, was very uncomfortable because it was causing too much attention. The guy behind him couldn't see. But I said to myself, this is going to be a major part of the movie, a key. And the guy who he became a target. Okay, he wasn't even targeted until this guy, the DEA guy, saw him at the fight with this big hat and this big coat, and he said, this guy must be somebody famous. He took a picture of him and then put him on his wall of people to target. And why did Frank Lucas accept the coat? Because he was in love with this woman. He had a deep desire for this woman, and he wanted to please her, right? And so, as a matter of fact, if you watch the movie, they put a whole little very deep scene on, you know, how he saw her across the room and he wanted her, so he wanted to please her. And so really, I'm not going to say that was all of it, but a big part of him coming down and being targeted and brought down from his drug empire started because of something he did to please a woman. And so sexual transmutation is about taking the strongest desire known to man, which is sex. Okay, contrary to popular belief, it's not love. Okay, sex is a stronger desire than love. There are 10 stimuli that pretty much our mind feeds off of, and really quickly, the desire for sex is number 1, love is number 2, the burning desire for fame, power, or money, music, friendship between man or woman, a mastermind, a mutual suffering, auto-suggestion, which is when you program your mind, fear, and drugs and alcohol, right? And so the number 1 stimuli for our mind, or stimulant for our mind, is sex. And to prove that, you know, some great men, some great women, okay, who have risked their life, have risked their reputation. It talks about it in here because of not being able to control their sexual desire. And so sex is a very powerful emotion. So Napoleon Hill in this book, Think and Grow Rich, talks about really the 3 main purposes for sex. 1 is to reproduce. 2, he said, is for therapy and health-wise, okay? As a matter of fact, he said, really there's no match to it therapeutically. The release and everything you get cleansing your body and that kind of stuff from sex, right? And hi Curtis. And then he said the 3rd one is to help people achieve genius by transmuting that sexual desire into something else, a more constructive force, okay? And so, or a more constructive goal, target, aim. And so he said reproduction, therapy or health for the body, and then transmute it into a level of genius, right? And so it's interesting how he said when it comes to therapy, there's nothing like it. It reminds me of the movie Ray. Okay, Jamie Foxx played Ray Charles, and when the guy was introducing Ray Charles to heroin, he said it's like it's so good, it's almost better than sex. And Ray Charles said, ain't nothing better than sex, right? And so shout out to the married people. I'm not promoting sex here, but hey, I'm a married woman, I'm a woman, and so I'm a human. And so everybody on here is grown and adult, and I hope I don't give anybody the wrong idea, but this is powerful. It's going to change some people's lives. So sex transmutation is all about that number 1 desire. The number 1 emotion in life is not love. That's number 2. The number 1 is sex. And like I said, you have seen very powerful men, very powerful women who risk their family, risk their livelihoods, risk their own health because of the strong desire of sex. It is the strongest desire. Number 2 is love. And so when you can take that desire and turn it into something more constructive, Napoleon Hill, and I agree because I've seen it, it turns into a genius effort what you're doing. Because, hi Trenton, because of the simple fact that sex is so strong. You guys know it, okay? The people on here know it, especially guys, have thought of, can think back to some of the mastermind things you've done to try to have sex with people or to quench your sexual desire, okay? I'll say it again. I read it somewhere. My pastor told it to me, and then I saw it in this book. Most mistakes that men and women, okay, make, major life mistakes, are because of men, women, or the opposite sex and money, okay, and or money. Hi, Jawan. And so really, what he's saying here is that when you have something, the strongest desire known to man, or the strongest stimulus we have for our mind, which is sex, even stronger than drugs and alcohol, stronger than love, stronger than the friendship, the desire to be friends with somebody, and you take that and you direct it somewhere else, you can create genius. Okay, let me give you some examples of that. So let's think about the fact that when water is dammed up, when there are levees and there's dams to keep water from flowing, right? All that pressure builds up and it builds up and it builds up, and then when it releases, okay, it's more powerful than when it was just free flowing, because all that tension is built up. And I'm not getting real physical here. I'm telling, this is, don't try to, don't, you know, make this into something, what do they call it? Whatever. Don't make this into something pornographic or whatever. All right. So I can remember sitting in New Orleans, and we were at one of these timeshare things, and the guy who was talking to my mom and my aunt and trying to sell them a timeshare, later on she told us, she said, this guy told us that when Hurricane Katrina came, the people in the city, the officials, to a certain extent directed the water. And I had heard something similar to that in Albany in the flood of 1994. That for a certain, even you cannot control extensive rain, or the river swelling and that kind of stuff. But within a city, because there are water systems set up to a certain extent, if everything is planned right, the people in the city can control water where it goes, right? And that's why a lot of people were upset, saying that, in Albany, where I'm from, that they let it go to, the poor areas and that kind of thing, even though the river was closer to the poor areas, but still they're saying they could have redirected it and that kind of thing. So the guy the sales agent in New Orleans was saying to my mom and my aunt that in New Orleans, it was so crime infested and so bad there. The crime was so bad, the violence was so bad that the powers that be controlled the water to a certain extent, and they were happy to let it flow in certain areas, saying that it needed a rebirth, to wipe out all the housing projects, all the neighborhoods in certain neighborhoods, because it was so heavily laden with crime, right? And so water can be controlled, and of course when you dam it up, it actually gets more powerful and more tension builds in it than when it's actually allowed to flow freely, right? And so you've seen and you heard people, especially guys, people joke with you when you shoot the basketball or you throw a football and you throw it too far, or like on the Tyler Perry movie, they were chopping wood and the guy was chopping it and it was just splitting quick because he was putting too much pressure in it, and somebody is making the joke like, oh, we can tell you're not getting any at home, right? Hey, AL. And so really they were joking, but it's real when you actually harness all that sexual energy, because sex is, I'll say it again, the number one emotion, even stronger than love. And you can see that because you've seen people who have broken up their happy homes because of their pursuing sexual desires. So sexual transmutation is realizing that sex is the most powerful emotion, that you will do some great things, okay, to quench the sexual desire. Men have come up with some great plots to try to get certain women, or try to relieve that sexual desire. I've seen it, I've heard it, I've witnessed it. People coming up with all these crazy lines, doing all this kind of stuff with cars and clothes and money to impress. All right. As a matter of fact, when I taught high school for 13 years, I told the young ladies, listen, because guys desire you, a lot of the things that they do in the class when they're acting up, when they buy new clothes and new shoes, when they're doing everything to try to be cool, is to impress the woman. That's a natural desire, right? Most men who make a lot of money, I know men who make money legally, I know men who make money illegally, I know men from afar, like presidents and company heads. Most of the time they're doing it to impress a woman, okay? And you may not believe that's true. Abraham Lincoln said it, okay? A lot of men, they do it because they have that sexual desire, all right? And so they come up with the master plan. Their mind goes to a level of genius. And that's what Napoleon Hill is saying in his book, Think and Grow Rich, on the chapter about sexual transmutation. It's chapter, to be more specific, it's the chapter of sexual transmutation is, hold on, I lost it. I'll get it in a minute because I don't want to lose you. But nevertheless, because sex is such a powerful emotion and a desire, you know what emotion stands for? Energy and motion, right? And so because men and women, but I'm going to say it more so men, they put so much energy into quenching that sexual desire, getting that sexual conquest. I want her, I want him, and that kind of thing, right? If you redirect that energy into your craft, your business, your education, Napoleon Hill says you're going to be a genius, right? So you're going to be a genius when you redirect it. He said the three main purposes for sex: reproduction, therapy, or healing powers that it has, and then third, to help people to reach the level of genius when they redirect that energy, right? So a couple, like I said, examples. When I was a young person, right? I'm not going to say that I'm super accomplished, but wrote some books, traveled the world, taught people, became a very, very accomplished teacher from being kind of the worst of the worst in a school that was worst of the worst. But a lot of it is because I saved myself for marriage. And a lot of times you can't miss what you never had. So a lot of the distractions that my peers were experiencing, because they had soul ties, they had emotional baggage, they had physical baggage, and they were addicted a lot of times to relationships that they knew were toxic or that were not adding things to them, that were liabilities to them instead of assets, because of that. And the Bible talks about soul ties, because of that emotional, that spiritual connection, as well as the physical burden and addiction that it becomes on you. I was not burdened with that kind of stuff, and so I was doing things that people were saying, I know you're young, but you seem much older than you are, because you've done this and you're into this and you're into investing, you're into traveling. You know, I talk to you, your conversation is on another level. It's because I do believe, and once I read this a couple years ago from Napoleon Hill, I said that makes a lot of sense. Okay, guys who are locked up in prison. Now I know there's jokes about men who are locked up in prison, but those who actually withstand and don't, you know, do other things to please themselves sexually, I know for a fact they come up with master plans. They write books, they get degrees, they come out and they hit the streets ground running, because they have diverted or redirected that sexual energy. And like I said, a lot of men, because they do things with their main goal is to impress a woman or to achieve that sexual conquest. And so a lot of men who are, you know, drug dealers and players and high CEOs and that kind of thing, they're very driven. And as the book says, most very accomplished men are highly sexed, right? Let's look at Bill Clinton. They're highly sexed, but when they take it and redirect it, or whenever they can control it, and he controlled his to a great extent, but still got caught up. That shows you that sex is more powerful than any other emotion, including love. And so the men in prison who actually stayed the course, all right, and I'm not going to tell you that I know exactly, but you can see the results of those who redirect their energy. And like I said, they write books, they read tons of books, they get degrees, and they come out with master plans for business and other things, and they come out and they thrive because they have spent all this time and energy uncovering their genius. Instead of, if they were on the streets, they would probably be soaking up a lot of their energy, a lot of their mental capacity with sex, right? So guys, I promise you this is going to change your life, because the name of this Thursday Night Live broadcast every Thursday is You've Been Through Too Much to Be Average. The average person doesn't think of this, okay? Sex is a weapon. It's a tool to elevate you. Yes, I named this sex can take you to the top. I'm not talking about sleeping your way to the top. I'm talking about the opposite of that, not sleeping your way to the top. Taking a fast, taking a break, and working on the things that you need to work on. And watch how you connect with your spiritual being. You connect with the universe when you abstain, right? When I talked about before, go back and look on my feed or my videos, my YouTube, and talk about fasting isn't for the average. And it's not all the time fasting for food, but when you are clear in your mind, when you're abstaining from something that you have a strong desire for, okay, that energy goes somewhere else. Okay, I'll say it again. That's sexual transmutation. The definition of transmutation is taking one form of energy and transferring it or converting it to another, right? So whether you're fasting from sex, from food, from talking to people, whatever it is, when you have a strong, that's why, and my pastor just reiterated this the other night when he said we're going on the fast for Lent or whatever. It has to be something that's important to you, something you have a strong affinity and desire for. When you let that go, the energy, the direction, okay, the focus that you place into that, like when men place a focus on, oh, I gotta sleep with her, oh, I gotta get laid at least once a day, once a week, and that kind of stuff, that is very powerful. When you take that and put it in another direction, Napoleon Hill says you'll become a genius, right? He says you get to your level of genius. Everybody has a level of genius. I talk about it all the time. Many people don't do their tape sessions. What's a tape session? Think and pray every day. We don't find a quiet time to just connect with the universe or connect with God and say, listen, I want solutions. I want to do something nobody else has ever done. We're facing this issue at work. We're facing this issue in our family, in our church. Let me be the one who brings the solution. Let me silence myself and just hear and connect with the universe, okay? People don't do that, especially when their mind is clouded with sex. And sex is so powerful, okay, that it leaves a big gap in your mind once you actually free yourself from that. And like I said, all the way, I saved myself into marriage, thank God. So a lot of things that I think I was able to accomplish, to focus, to study, I was able to do it, okay? A lot of times people saying it takes 5 years to graduate from a 4-year college, especially if you're the black college and this kind of stuff. Not so, all right? writing books, teaching on another level, traveling the world, becoming an award-winning educator when I started from the bottom, okay, and just doing some things that most people thought I was very admirable for doing. I can contribute a lot of it now for the grace that God gave me to not even taste it, because you can't miss what you never had. So even if I had even maybe witnessed or tried sex, to a certain extent, people have said it's addictive, and I can say that based on now being sexually active with my husband. It's addictive. It's feelings. They're good feelings. As a matter of fact, as the guy said in the book, he said, Napoleon Hill said, really it's three main purposes for sex: reproduction, therapy. He said, as a matter of fact, he put a little note. Let me read it to you what he said about therapy. He said that really when it comes to, he said the number one reason for sex is to perpetuate mankind, it's reproduce. Number two, the maintenance of health. As a therapeutic agency, it has no equal. Basically, he's saying, hey, Renato, basically he's saying it's nothing equivalent to the therapy that sex gives you, right? And then the third one he says is the transformation of mediocrity into genius through transmutation. That's what we're talking about. How you can transfer yourself from mediocrity, from being average, from doing things moderately, okay, to doing them in excellence and genius when you take yourself away from sex, which is the most powerful driver, the most powerful emotion on earth known to mankind, whether you believe it or not. Now, not a lot of people on here are saying yes and amen, especially the guys. You know it to be true. You've seen men do some crazy things, risk their livelihoods, their families. They've been in key positions, like the most powerful men in the world risk certain things because of sex, right? Not love. Sex is even more powerful than love. All right. And so listen, more examples of that. Okay. So like I said, me as a young person, men in prison, okay, when they actually are truly abstinent and they're not focusing on, man, I used to have sex every day and man, this and this. Okay. And they come up with master plans. They gain degrees and diplomas and that kind of stuff. I've seen it happen. What about coaches? When coaches prepare their teams, I've known people who played sports. And they would say, the coach would say, listen, before a game, a week before a game, a couple days before the game, no sex, right? And he said you could literally see the players who were having sex. Okay, I've had coaches that I work with. I've had coaches who have played. I have coaches who have coached. I didn't work with them, but I just knew them. And we were just having conversation about success and achievement, okay? And it says that I've had them say, I can tell when a guy is not on the sex fast, right? I can tell by their performance. I can tell by their mental. I can tell by their physical. When a guy, and like I said, you've seen people say the little joke. When a guy throws the football, he throws it way past the guy's like, man, we know you're not getting anything, right? Because his energy is at another level. Mental energy, physical energy, emotional energy. Coming up, when you think about people who were like monks or people who have separated themselves for time being just to come up with a master plan, all right? There are examples of men, celebrities, but there are guys and women who I know. Like I said, I use myself as an example. Think about spiritual fast. When you're fasting from anything, but especially something that you have a strong desire for. We have a strong desire and need for food, okay? And even in this book, Napoleon Hill said we even have a strong desire and need for sex because it's therapy. It cleanses the body. It releases stress and that kind of thing. He says there's no match. And like I said, it refers me back to that quote in the Ray Charles movie, okay? When he was trying heroin for the first time and the guy told him, say, listen, it's almost better than sex. Ray Charles said, no, ain't nothing better than sex, right? And so listen, when you think about how powerful sex is and you know it to be true, all right? Hey, Pope, you know it to be true. Think about if you redirect that energy and put it somewhere else. Napoleon Hill says when you redirect that energy, okay, you turn into a genius in whatever you're redirecting that energy to. It says, now, of course, to a certain degree, I think Napoleon Hill was a little sexist or insensitive because he puts no examples of men in his book. He talks a lot about Carnegie and Rockefeller and Schwab and Abraham Lincoln, but it could have just been the time that he wrote the book, or it could have been actual intentional sexism. But he talks about man, I just equate it to mankind, okay? But he said most highly accomplished men are highly sexual beings. They're highly sexed. And when they can control it, like if they're married and they stay within their marriage, they don't step out, they're very high achievers in other areas. So you have guys who are players, and you think about, they think it's good to be a player, but now you can look at that person and say, listen, that guy could probably be a genius, could be at the top of his game. Sex can take you to the top. Not having sex, okay, controlling it, not spending so much energy and time finding out how you're going to have sex, physical energy, actually having sex. And so all that energy you can use. So next time you see a player, or the next time you are happy and patting yourself on the back for being a player, or not even being a player, but just having your sexual escapades and having your freedom, think about the energy that you could actually be diverting or redirecting to your genius. All right. As a matter of fact, he's the mystery of sex. This chapter 11, the mystery of sex, transmutation, in Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. And I have a leather bound copy, thanks to my hair stylist. Okay, he's on here. Attaboy Nicaro. But because this book is so good, and like I said, I had an old tattered copy, and I expressed the fact that I wanted a leather bound. Lo and behold, next time I came to see him, he had it for me with the bookmark. Okay, and so shout out to that. Make your request known in the universe. All right. A really good book I read says, "You have not because you ask not, or asking it shall be given to you." So, attaboy, thank you for my hairstylist giving me this book. But number 3, he says the number 3 purpose, okay, out of 3 purposes, the number 3 purposes of sex is to transform mediocrity into genius through transmutation. What that means, things you do on an average level, okay, when you abstain from sex and redirect that energy. Oh yeah, he said Anderson Gray, right? It says Victoria Green brackets on there. All right. For those of you who don't know me, you just know me as Victoria Gatsby. That's right. Thank you for that. All right. So when you redirect that energy, and guess what? There's another example right here, and this might get a lot of y'all. There's a lot of ambiguity about certain superstars who are at the top of their game, right? And I think because there might be some issue about, their sexual preference as far as male, female, whatever, they may be, I think, abstaining to a certain degree, and because of that, they're putting all that energy, because they're like, they might not be sure about, the philosophy behind it, the spirituality. I don't want to be cursed, or I don't want people to dislike me. And so I think several artists, a music artist I know for sure, okay, a movie producer and entertainment mogul I know for sure, I think a lot of that energy, okay, that genius, because you look at their work and it's like, wow, this is unbelievable. I think it's as a result of them abstaining, because they're like, listen, even though I have these desires, if I don't act on them, okay, I know it's there, but if I never act on them, maybe they're not really there, that they can't be solidified as me doing this. So I think, and I could be wrong, they might not be abstaining, but I think, and some of you all know exactly who I'm talking about, but you think about certain people who go on fast, who are artists, who go on fast from sex, and actually some band leaders, some coaches, they require, okay, and I've said it before, coaches will say, yes, I put the team on a fast from sex, but you can tell the guys who are not adhering to it. You can tell because they lack. You can tell because their performance shows it. And so those are all examples, okay? If you don't believe me, just watch, just try it and see, okay? And even if you're married, I'm not telling you, the Bible says don't say you're fasting or deprive each other unless you agree upon it. But even as a married person, I know it, okay? A lot of the times when I abstain, either intentionally or just because of not doing, taking the time that I should, sometimes my production and my gift, my writing, my recording, my teaching, the programs that I develop, they're just spilling out, right? Same thing, if you and your partner agree and say, hey, listen, let's just, whatever your craft is, whatever your gift is that God gave you to give to the world, let's just abstain for a certain period of time and see where we go. It's just like fasting from food, okay? You go to another level. You go to another realm. All right, so what does this mean to you? You're on this podcast, you're on this Thursday Night Live edition of You've Been Through Too Much to Be Average, okay? Level yourself up by curbing the sex, especially if you're single, okay? You guys know about the Bible, what it says about that, and also, it's not just to condemn you. It talks about the spiritual ties, soul ties that you get. It talks about the emotional baggage and that kind of stuff. So really, you guys know that the power of, or the disempowering nature of sex, especially sex in the wrong context, and in just when it's wrong, right? And so think about redirecting that energy. And some people are just like, I gotta have it, right? Spike Lee had to make the movie She's Gotta Have It. I don't even know if that was about sex, because, hey, Danielle, I don't even know if that was about sex, because I've never seen it, but I heard that it was about that. She's gotta have it. So a lot of people feel like they gotta have it. They do things. They go to great lengths. You've seen people, risk their lives, driving while they're sleepy, doing all kinds of crazy stuff because they gotta have it, right? Driving home, rushing home to do it, to get it. And so it's powerful. I'll agree, okay? Yes, it was a great thing when I got married, and the wait was finally over. It's a good thing, right? But think about this. It makes sense when you transmutation, taking something and transferring the energy into another form, okay? it takes you to another level. Average people are not going to do this. Average people jump off this live broadcast and say, that's foolish, you know, I gotta have it. And think about it, those are the people average at best, okay? But people who are doing great things, at some point they have to control that sexual desire. And you can think about even the president who got caught up in scandal, and there are others that got caught up, other presidents that didn't necessarily was a big thing about the scandal, but you know, Kennedy's it wasn't the same thing as Clinton, but the same thing. He was highly sexed, okay, excuse me, highly sexual, let me say it that way. Most very accomplished men, okay, and women, I don't mean to be sexist, but I'm making a lot of reference to how Napoleon Hill did it, and things we've seen in the news are very sexual beings, and that's why they accomplish, because they have that desire, okay? I said this when I was teaching high school, all right? We had this back and forth issue, and I think it's still an issue, about young men pulling their pants up, not sagging, as they say. And I say, listen, it doesn't matter if you send them to detention. It doesn't matter if you give them a fine. It doesn't matter what's going to hit them. It's if young ladies stop entertaining them and saying, hey, listen, I can't talk to you. I'm not going to laugh at your jokes. You're not going to date me until you pull your pants up. Until that happens, young men are still going to do it, okay? I'll say it again. If young women stop accepting not just the sagging pants, anything from men, they would change, because a man's number one desire is after a woman. There's something he's longing for. It's called his rib, really. There's something inside of him that desires something, and because of that, he's going to act out in class to seem like the big macho guy. He's going to make a lot of money, whether he's selling drugs or running a corporation, so that he can impress the woman. And a lot of guys I know, especially guys who make big money illegally and legally, they do it. One of the main reasons is so that they can have several women. They can have women kept. So they're like, listen, for the lifestyle that I want, plenty of women, okay? As one of my spiritual mothers said, a female is exactly that, a male with a fee, okay? It costs more to have a female, right? So a lot of men say, hey, I know I want to have several women, and I want to take care of them well, because women are attached to security. The Bible says that a man should love, meaning take care of his woman. And so women are attached to security. They like things. They are females, males with fees, right? So a lot of men are driven by that. So they're like, listen, I got to be the CEO. I got to be the president, the vice president. I got to own several companies. I got to sell drugs. I got to do this crime empire, because I got to have a lot of money, A, to attract women, and B, to take care of women. Okay, so sexual transmutation, guys, is real. And I know it's real because a lot of people on here have been saying amen. They've been lifting their hands on here, but I don't want you just to listen to this. I want you to use it, okay? Especially people who have been maybe a little out of control when it comes to sex and feeling like you gotta have it. Redirect that energy. Is it hard? I don't want to say that, like I said, when I was younger, I couldn't miss what I never had. For me, because I've always kind of been accomplished and driven and have so many things going on in my mind. Excuse me, that's a hydration break. But yeah, I know it's hard because I've seen people falter just like a drug. I've seen people try it and fail, and I've seen all kind of things. So what I'm saying is, pray for grace, pray for help, and just take a little bit of time, hey Michael, and redirect that sexual desire energy into honing your craft, into practicing. You guys know about Malcolm Gladwell's book that I talk about a lot, in the Outliers. He says in order for you to become an expert in your field, okay, you have to put in 10,000 hours, okay? Darren Hardy said you do your craft every day until it becomes world class, okay? And so all the energy you're putting into how you're going to have a sexual exploit, how am I going to get him in bed, how am I going to get her in bed, or how can I, this desire is burning, I got to have it. And a lot of movies, a lot of songs talk about it. It's real, okay? Sex is the most powerful emotion. Love is number 2, guys. And like I said, the proof is in the pudding. You've seen people rise and fall because of it. Okay, like I said, you've seen people rise. You've seen people that the person in charge was willing to let them sleep their way to the top because of sexual desire. And then you've seen people at the top do things, make crazy plays because of sexual desires that they could not control and come down. So you've seen people rise and fall. It's real. You've seen people, guys especially, come up with master plans, come up with lies and, cover-ups, or even not just cover-ups, but actually make things happen legitimately, but put a lot of energy into things that people thought were impossible because they're trying to impress a woman. All right? And so I wanted to teach a little bit before I read this, but kind of summarizing exactly what I just said is Napoleon Hill's passage in chapter 11 of his book, Think and Grow Rich. He says, sex desire is the most powerful of human desires. When driven by this desire, men develop keenness of imagination, courage, willpower, persistence, and creative ability unknown to them at other times. Courage, okay? Hey, when men get that courage, they get that imagination, they find a way to make it happen, okay? Either to please the woman that they are trying to get, or the woman that they love, or to just get in her pants, all right? I'll read it again. Sex is the most powerful of human desires. When driven by this desire, men develop keenness of imagination, courage, willpower, persistence, and creative ability unknown to them at other times, right? And I kind of looked at I used the reverse of this when I was talking about how my husband and I dated and courted and were engaged for a total of about 3 years. Never had sex. And what that proved to me, and I talked about this on the podcast, the live session when I said that was entitled, Fasting is Not for the Average. Because not having sex, that's fasting as well. It's not always food, okay? And so I said the fact that he proved that he could do that, and I could do the same for him, it wasn't really a big deal to me, because you can't miss what you never had. I had never wet my palate for that, but he had before. And so the fact that it proved, when he was able to do that, that allowed me to know that if anything ever happened and we could not have sex, either we were apart or there was health issues or something like that, I'm not going to say it's guaranteed, but it gives me a greater notion to believe that he would be able to withhold himself and not have to go sleep with someone else, and vice versa, same for me, or go out and do pornography or do whatever, right? So the same thing is here. Using that energy lets you know to either abstain, lets you know that you have that energy. And if you have not been abstaining, you know it's a powerful urge. So use that energy and redirect it. Energy, you guys know, what is it? The law of thermodynamics. It's either the second law of nature or the second law of energy, okay? Or either the first law of energy. That energy is neither destroyed nor created, right? It's neither lost nor destroyed, right? So all energy is transmuted. It goes from one thing to another, all right? Food, you ingest it, and then it becomes energy and fuel for your body, okay? Water goes into the ground, and it becomes food, and then we eat it and we consume it and all this kind of stuff, right? So energy is neither lost nor destroyed. It just goes from one form to the next. So control that sexual desire. It's a powerful thing. It gets a lot of people in trouble, but it also gets people, when you talk about guys who could not get, okay, women, or did not have enough confidence or courage or whatever, and they go off and they invent great things that have changed our lives forever for the better, right? Because what they would have been depleted of as far as genius and energy and power, they used it to do something great. Let it sink in. While I'm taking this hydration break, let it sink in for a minute. So when you abstain from sex, whether you have had sex before and you want to be celibate, or you just want to go on a fast, not only do you do the practical, which is save yourself some spiritual, physical, mental, emotional heartache and baggage and wear and tear, okay, on your body and soul. But what I'm saying now, what the average person didn't know before they came on here tonight, or the average person who's not on here, because you're on here, if you're on here, you're allergic to the average, okay, atta boy, atta girl. But not only, the Bible and people tell you to, not to be too sexually active, don't hook up with people, this kind of stuff, because of the soul ties and the spiritual and physical wear and tear. But tonight you're going to another level. You're leveling up because you're realizing that you can tap into your genius when you can control your sexual desire, when you can control yourself. All right. You're tapping into it, okay? It says, fortunate indeed, the person who has discovered how to give sex emotion an outlet through some form of creative effort, for he has, by that discovery, lifted himself to a status of genius. Basically, he's saying, when you can control your sexual desire, you're putting yourself head and shoulders above the rest, because most people can't. And we see it in the news all the time. We see perverted things going on. We see people fall from grace in high places because they stepped out on their husband, stepped out on their wife. They're doing... Sexual desire is real, it's strong, it's a deep passion. And like I said, sometimes people, when it may be a little misaligned, or it may be, people have a desire for kids, or have a desire for whatever, and they don't control it, okay, and it controls them, they end up in a lot of trouble doing some crazy things. But what if you took back that power and say, listen, this desire is strong, it's so strong, it has me thinking things, it has me doing things, but instead of using it for the sexual outlet, let me put it somewhere else. As he said, when you find some other creative effort, okay, you have lifted yourself to the status of genius. Let me let that sink in. Let me read it one more time. Fortunate indeed is the person who has discovered how to give sex emotion an outlet through some form of creative effort, for he has, by that discovery, lifted himself to the status of a genius. Okay? Of the 10 things, there are 10 external things that stimulate our mind. 1 is the desire for sex expression. Number 1, they're in order. 2, love. 3, a burning desire for fame, power, or financial gain or money. 4 is music, and I think I skipped that one earlier. 5, friendship between either those of the same sex or those of the opposite sex. 6, a mastermind alliance based upon the harmony of 2 or more people who ally themselves for spiritual and temporal advancement. 7, mutual suffering, such as that experienced by people who are persecuted. 8, auto-suggestion, and there's a chapter in here about that, when you just program your mind by telling it something until it believes it. 9, fear. Number 10, drugs and alcohol, narcotics and alcohol. Those are the 10 mind stimuli. Okay, music is in there. Music is a good one. I think I'm going to do a session on that later. Okay, but the number 1 is love. The number 1 is sex, the most powerful emotion. And the definition of emotion, if you didn't know, is energy in motion. Energy in motion. People get depressed and repressed and all this kind of stuff because they don't put the energy in motion. They don't live out what they're thinking about. They don't, express it, and so it just goes down, 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 and then they implode. They explode from the inside, right? Same thing with sex. Either it's going to explode in a negative direction, meaning you're doing too much with too many or the wrong kind or whatever, or you can take that power back and harness it, or it's already harnessed, and release it somewhere else. Okay? And so listen, this wasn't explicit at all. If you know young people who are on Facebook, share this to them. Share it, because really, I heard somebody say, young man who's doing things in the community, he says a lot of people waste their time. He was kind of taking a shot at me, like, I'm not doing all this kind of lives and this kind of stuff because adult people, they're gonna listen, they're gonna say amen, whatever, but they're not gonna do the work. Okay? But really, when you say that, you're saying that you really kind of playing God, that God's word is not true. God's word says you plant the seeds and you worry about letting him get the increase, right? Some will water whatever you plant the seeds, and when he sends the word out, it's going to do what you please, right? So you're telling me that the only people that are going to make a change and do something are children? No. Now, they're more impression when you probably get a greater return on investment with them, but that's not true. So I still actually seed into my flock, my sheep, the people who follow me. Everything isn't for everybody, okay? But I'm not going to give up on the adults, because the word of God, the most popular book in the world, best-selling of all time, says if I put it out there, if I share it, okay, it's going to do whatever God meant for it to do. Okay, I don't know when or how, I don't know who's going to have to water it and go behind me, but I trust that to be. All right, so sexual transmutation. All right, sexual transmutation, taking the desire that you, hey Dalton, I haven't seen you in a while, the desire that you have for sex, which is the strongest emotion, energy in motion. That's what emotion is. The strongest emotion known to mankind, the strongest stimulant to mankind. When you take that and redirect it into something of a different purpose, of a different nature, whether it's your gift, whether it's your calling, whether it's working on the solution to a problem, whether it's working on an invention, you're going to go to the level of genius, because that's the highest desire in man. That's where the most passion lies. That's where the most focus lies. You've seen men do it, okay, jump through hoops to impress a woman. You've seen women do it, jump through hoops to impress a man, okay? Like I said, I used to tell the young women this all the time when I taught high school. You don't have to, a lot of stuff you're doing, what you're wearing and doing, you don't have to do that because it's in a man. There's the desire there, and it's the strongest desire in him to please you. And so most things that men do is to impress women, okay? Go back to how I opened it up. I'm going to close it out the same way. My pastor in his office told me, and I had already read in a book somewhere, in this book, Napoleon's Hill's Think and Grow Rich, the chapter on sex transmutation says it all. The same thing that my pastor told me. He says most mistake that men make, okay, it's because of a woman or money. And many times it's both. And many times, to go even further, it's because of things that men are doing for money so that they can impress or attract women, okay? So, you guys remember on Harlem Nights, right? Harlem Nights is one of my favorite movies. Harlem Nights, Richard Pryor, Red Fox, a lot of the late greats were in there, right? And it's back in the time, it represented the 20s, the roaring 20s, where, you know, black people were in Harlem. They dressed up every night, and they actually went to clubs and danced really, classy dances, and, you know, they were beautiful and wealthy and that kind of thing. And so in that movie, you guys know of a lady they call Sunshine, right? You remember Sunshine, right? One of the biggest gangsters, okay, in the movie. All right, one of his boys got really caught up because of, he got caught up after having sex with his woman. He was addicted. He called his wife, and he picked up the phone and said, hey, listen, where's your mama? So the baby gave the mama the phone and said, listen, I ain't never coming home no more, right? Based on the sexual encounter he had with this girl called Sunshine. And you know why Delarice said they call it Sunshine, right? So yeah, Richie was his name. Richie was working for the big time gangster. Lost his cool. He's a drug dealer, okay, trafficking or smuggling heroin, okay. So you got to be real sly and slick. But I've seen a lot of drug dealers. I've seen a lot of CEOs. You've seen presidents. You've seen people fall because of sex, not love. Sex. They've risked their love, their families, their wives and husbands for decades because of sexual desire. That's why Napoleon Hill says it's the number one emotion, the number one stimulant for our mind is sex. Think about that. Let it sink in. You know how you have been sexually. You know whether or not you've been discreet. You know whether or not you've been disciplined. You know, even if you're married, the Bible says you can abstain, but just make sure you guys agree. Okay, if the husband is abstaining but the wife is not, okay, there's a problem, and vice versa. All right, and so you agree and say, hey, listen, honey, baby, you have a business, you know, it's been doing okay or not so well. I have this gift or whatever. Let's see if we can get to another level. Let's fast from sex, okay? And especially if you're not married. Fast. Hey, Ms. Milner. So using the energy that you would use to quench or to please your sexual desire, transmute it, divert that energy into working on connecting with the higher being, that's in this chapter it talks about your sixth sense kicks in, okay? You go to the level of genius when you can control your sexual desire, because it's the most powerful emotion known to mankind, okay? Listen, I say it all the time. I say it all the time that when I used to teach in the jail, okay, for 7 years, and a lot of what I do now, going into those centers and things like that, when I talk about how, as a matter of fact, I was teaching somebody earlier this week, and I talked about how drug addicts, okay, because they have that desire, they come up with a master plan. They come up with these crazy lies and stories. They put a lot of energy into getting money to make sure that they get high every day. As a matter of fact, I told some young people, if a drug addict can make sure that they get high every day, sometimes several times a day, surely you can find a way to be successful, right? Surely the universe is more on your side than they're on theirs. Okay, but Napoleon Hill talks about this here too, persistence, having a definite plan, okay, and persistence in how the universe jumps on your side. And I've quoted his line out of here before that says, the universe has a way of stepping aside and making a way for the man or woman who knows what he or she wants. So, albeit very bad and dangerous and ugly, drug addicts make make it known that today I'm going to get high. Tonight I'm going to get high. Tomorrow, same thing. I don't care what I have to do. I don't care who I have to sacrifice. I don't care what kind of plan. They come up with all these brilliant lies. I've seen some people at gas stations. I've seen people in my family, and I'm like, wow, the energy it took for you to come up with that story. Man, you could be an awesome lawyer. You could be an awesome stock analyst, right? Same thing here. Like I said, people are driven, okay? Drugs are spirits. And so there's a spirit within them. There's a passion within them. Like, hey, I got to get high. I love this feeling. I want more of it. And so they come up with master plans. You've seen the people at Walmart who have these crazy stories. Like, how did they ever think of that, right? Same thing with sex. People say, hey, listen, I got to have it, right? Especially men. I got to get with her, all right? I got to, even if it's not her, I got to give it to somebody today, tonight, whatever, right? And guess what? Right, hey, Jerome, one of my old students said David killed for Bathsheba and Uriah was his best friend. Yep. Sex splits up families. Sex brings down kingdoms, guys. You can be the most powerful man in the world, okay? And you guys know who I'm talking about. And risk it all for sex. It just so happens that this president had a woman who stood by him, and he did his job very well. So it was only this one indiscretion. But it goes to prove that highly accomplished men are highly sexed, but usually they can control it. Okay, hey Rashawn. Okay, and also it goes on to prove that highly accomplished men and women risk it all sometimes because of they cannot control that number one emotion and stimuli for a stimulant, which is sex, not love. Love is number two, contrary to popular belief. Okay. And the Christians out here might be, have the little emoji right now with the hand on, like, oh no. But in reality, if you read the Word of God, you'll see. Just like Jerome just gave the example about David and Bathsheba. There's other examples in the Bible about sex and lust and that kind of thing. Love is number two, okay? Sex, okay? It says if we're left to our own imaginations, we're wicked, okay? That's sex, right? We have to get with God so we can control it. And that's when the love comes in. But just us by ourselves, sex is going to take over because it's the strongest natural desire. You have to get connected spiritually to be able to control it and let love take over. Okay, but out of those stimulus, and I think that's pretty interesting. I'm going to read these again. I'm getting ready to get out of here. But Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, I reference it a lot. Okay, Think and Grow Rich. He says the 10 mind stimuli. Number 1, the desire for sex expression, and they are in order. Number 2, love. Number 3, a burning desire for fame, power, or financial gain / money. 4, music. That's a powerful one. 5, friendship between either those of the same sex or those of the opposite sex. 6, a mastermind alliance based upon the harmony of 2 or more people who are ally themselves for spiritual or temporal advancement. 7, mutual suffering, such as that experienced by people who are persecuted. 8, auto-suggestion, and that's when you program your mind by telling it something until it believes it. 9 is fear, and then the number 10 stimulant for the mind is narcotics and alcohol. But number 1 is sexual transmutation, or desire for sex expression, to express yourself sexually. That's the number 1 desire. Number 2 is love. Okay. Hey, look, sex beats out love. And once you recognize that and realize and accept it to be true, and a lot of the people on here, especially guys, have said that's true. They've said amen on this particular live broadcast. So once you accept it, and then 2, use it for your benefit, curb your sexual desire, take control of it before it takes control of you. And not just takes control of you, but take control of it and elevate yourself to genius. You're on this live session because every Thursday night is called You've Been Through Too Much to Be Average. Okay? You might have been doing everything possible. You're like, man, I want to be a millionaire. Man, I want my business to go to the next level. Man, I want to come up with a business idea. I want to solve this problem at work so that I can get a promotion, or I can, just become more productive. And you're not even thinking that something as close to you as sex, something that you have control over, such as sex, you can use that to get to the top. I'm not talking about sleeping your way to the top. I'm talking about the opposite of that. Not sleeping your way to the top. Abstaining from sex and using that mental energy to go to the level of genius that you never experienced. Okay? Now, some of you are going to do that, and I'm going to see your testimonies. I'm going to hear your testimonies. You're going to come back and put your comments under this video. You're going to see me when I come to train your people, or you're going to see me at an event, or you're just going to see me on Facebook. You're going to inbox me. You're going to say, hey, listen, I took what you said, that sex is the most powerful emotion, and it can change your life if you control it and redivert that energy to something else. And I'm going to say, hey, thank God that I had a list of things, okay? I have a notebooks of things that I'm going to do on Thursday night live editions of You've Been Through Too Much to Be Average. But last night, after an amazing time in a worship service, I'm like, what am I going to do for Thursday night live tomorrow? What am I going to do for this week's episode of You've Been Through Too Much to Be Average? And it came to me a few hours later. It might even been this morning. Sexual transmutation. Most people never heard of it. Average people, the average person never heard of it. But you're better than average. You're allergic to the average. ATTA, attaboy, attagirl. So don't just be on here saying amen and putting your hands up. Use this. Go on even a small fast from sex. And use that time, that energy to focus on something that you need to level up in. Listen, you guys know I love you so much. I love doing this. I want to see you next Thursday on the next episode of You've Been Through Too Much to Be Average at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. I want you to subscribe to my podcast, please. Please go on Anchor. Please go on Overcast. Please go on Spotify. Please go on Apple and subscribe to The Rare Podcast. It's an acronym, RARE, The Rich and Rome Experience. Subscribe, hey Ms. Rushi, to The Rare Podcast. Hey, Cousin Tommy, I want you to subscribe to The Rare Podcast, okay? Because every Wednesday morning at 5 a.m. Eastern Time, I'm releasing a podcast. For those of you who don't know, a podcast is like a radio show that you can listen to even when you don't have the internet. It's on your phone. You can listen to it while you're on the treadmill, while you're walking, while you're in your car, okay, hook up the Bluetooth or whatever. So I want you to subscribe to my podcast because it's great stuff just like I'm teaching here so that you can become better than average, allergic to the average, right? Hey, listen, sex can take you to the top, not in the way you're thinking. Redirect that energy and see how powerful it is. You already know how powerful it is because you've already been through too much to be average. You already know some of the crazy stuff you've done for sex or other crazy stuff you've seen other people do for sex, whether they were in your life or things you just seen from afar. Okay, I've seen a lot of it. Most men motivated by a sexual desire to please a woman or to attract a woman. Yes, the Rare Podcast, the Rich and Rome Experience. Subscribe to that podcast, please. Okay, it's free. And it comes on your phone, whatever device you have, you can listen to it anytime. There's lots of free content for empowering your mind, elevating your lives. Okay, listen, I'm getting ready to get out of here. It's been about an hour. We do about an hour. Okay, go to my YouTube page. There's a lot of free videos there. A lot of my old videos, once we do Thursday night lives, I upload them there. A little behind. I got to get the videographer on that. But nevertheless, I love you all. I want to see you at the top. All right. Yes, sex can take you to the top. Let it take you to the top. Okay, by not sleeping your way to the top. And if you're just getting on, you don't know what that means, go back and watch the video. Even if you have, watch it again. Please do me a favor, like this video, share this video. It's been real. I was so excited about this because most people don't talk about it. Most people never thought about it, but you know it's true, okay, just from your own experience. So I want you to use this to empower your mind, elevate your life, take you to another level where average people are not going to go. I love you all. Remember, you can learn your way out of every situation and onto any destination. You're stagnated right now. You're stuck. Hey, Javon, you're at a level and you want to get to another level. Use this to level up, okay? That sexual desire that has you rushing home, that has you risking your family, risking your life, your health, your reputation, even the highest men in the world, highest women in the world. Yes, a hydration break, okay? It's that powerful, and you know it to be true. You watch movies you've seen in your own personal life, whether it's you or people you know. Sex is power. It's a powerful thing. It's the most. I was shocked when I found that. But then when I thought about it, I was like, yeah, it's more powerful than love. Love is number 2 as our mind stimulant. Number 1 is the desire for sex expression, to desire to express yourself sexually. Like I said, men, hey Sherelle, men in prison who actually abstain and don't go, for whatever's there. You guys know what I mean. They don't settle for what's there. A lot of times they accomplish wonderful, phenomenal things because they have redirected that sexual energy. Okay? Guys, listen. You, like I said, NBA superstars. And I can't say who's guilty when you've had people put themselves in very compromising situations because of the desire for sex expression. So that just confirms that Napoleon Hill was onto something when he said that's the number 1 mind stimulant out of the 10 that we have as humans. All right, listen, I'm sure I covered everything that I have on here. Okay, remember, you can learn your way out of every situation and onto any destination. Like this, share this, go back and watch it again and again. Subscribe on YouTube. It's the same name as my Facebook name. Subscribe to the podcast, which is the Rare Podcast. Rare, R-A-R-E, the Rich and Rome Experience. I'll see you all, okay? I love you all. I want to see you at the top. You've already been through too much to be average, so make it work for you. Good night. Oh, yeah, good morning. Good day to some people because some people are watching from across the world, and I appreciate that. And, I'm grateful for it. I'll see you all next time. Next Thursday for sure. 9:30 p.m. Facebook Live. You've been through too much to be average. The next episode. Also, Rare Podcast every Wednesday morning, 5 a.m. Eastern Time. You'll get a new podcast. I love you all. See you next time.